Allah is my heart's speech, your mercy is what I beseech. Keep in my heart your remembrance, and in your deen allow me to advance. Help me in my quest, permit me to pass the ultimate test. Help me in my quest, permit me to pass the ultimate test.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على مبعوث رحمة للعالمين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to this new episode coming to you live from Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. Until we receive your calls, I have a number of questions that came through the email. So we will take about 6 to 7 minutes to answer them, inshallah. After that, we will answer your phone calls. As you can see, the numbers at the bottom of the screen. The first question is from Muhammad. And Muhammad says that if I come to a masjid and the prayer, the congregation has already started, and the last row, it's completely full, and there's no one with me, and I know that the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, that there is no prayer acceptable or valid for an individual behind the row. So is it permissible for me to tap someone on his shoulder or pull someone from the row in front of me so that we could be two and form our own row? And the answer is, it's an issue of dispute. But the most authentic opinion is that it is not permissible for you to tap someone and to pull him so that he would go backwards and stand with you in a row. Because, first of all, you'll interrupt his concentration of prayer. Now imagine someone pulls you while you are in the midst of the prayer, you're contemplating on the verses of the Quran, you're hearing, and you are in a state of khushu', and all of a sudden this guy pulls you backwards. You will completely be distracted throughout the whole prayer. Secondly, the Prophet says, alayhi salam, whoever connects a row, Allah will connect him. And whoever interrupts a row, Allah Azza wa Jal would cut him or sever him, or whatever this may be as a punishment from Allah Azza wa Jal. And therefore, it's not permissible for you to do this. And if you come and there is no possibility for you to join the last row, sometimes a lot of the brothers seem to be relaxed when they stand in a row. So they spread their legs and they keep gaps. So many times, if you go to the right or to the left, and you just tap the 4 or 5 last men standing in the row together, you will find a place for a man or two to join in. But hypothetically speaking, if it's completely full and everyone in the last row, mashallah, is on the sunnah, they're shoulder to shoulder, foot to foot, they are not leaving a single gap, and you are unable to join them, in this case, Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, may Allah have mercy on his soul, said that it is permissible for you to pray on your own as an individual, though the hadith states that this is not valid, because Allah says, فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ, which means that fear Allah to the best of your ability, and this is the best of your ability. You can't pray in the row, so you have to pray. And the hadith, scholars say that this hadith is referring to a person who comes out of ignorance or arrogance and looks, and he doesn't want to stand in the row, in the gap here or there. So he says, I'm going to pray behind the imam and form my own row. Someone will come. This person's prayer is invalid. Aziz's question, he says that if I'm eating and I'm almost full and someone gives me a plate of food, and this happens, you know, when you're eating at somebody's house and they keep on pouring food for you until you're stuffed and you're full, yet they give you another plate and say, try this. So he says, what should I do? Should I what's the best? Would I overeat or finish the plate that I have, or leave the new food coming and not be full? Definitely, the answer is you are not supposed to eat until you are full. The Prophet ﷺ said in an authentic hadith, it is sufficient for the son of Adam few morsels that would straighten up his back. Meaning that when you're hungry, you seem to cave in a little bit because of starving and your stomach is empty. But few morsels would make your back straighten up your back. So the Prophet says, it's sufficient for you to have few morsels. But if you have to eat more than few morsels, then you should divide and have 1/3 for your food, 1/3 for your drink, and 1/3 for your breathing, for the air to come in. Now, unfortunately, people keep on eating like beasts. And when you tell the brother, Akhi, you're overeating, he said, yeah, Akhi, the Prophet said 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. Each one of us knows his third. So I know what's my capacity is. And this is wrong. Because when you overeat, you oversleep, and you become lazy and would not be able to function properly. Salar question, he says that sometimes I see Muslims who seemingly have nothing to do with Islam or are very far away from the deen. Then I get a feeling of disgust in my heart against them. Is this considered to be type of arrogance because I'm afraid that in my heart I would think that I am better than them? Yes, you're not supposed to think that you're better than them, but definitely you have to hate and abhor and detest what they're doing, these sins. And this is a great thing that a Muslim should balance. The Prophet says, alayhi salam, that the tightest knots of Islam or of Iman, to love in the sake of Allah and to hate in the sake of Allah. To have your allegiance for the sake of Allah and to have your enmity in the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. This means that if I see a Muslim, I don't 100% go to that Muslim and love him with his good and bad. No. The things that he does in accordance to Islam, to the Quran and the Sunnah, I love this. And I encourage him. And I would like to congratulate him for doing this. But his sins, when he abandons the Sunnah, I have to hate this. So there can be love and hate in a Muslim, in an individual. And this balance is a very tricky thing because a lot of the Muslims fail to do this, unfortunately. They either love all the way, even if he is a criminal, he's a Muslim, he's a relative, even if he's an openly sinful person, or they hate all the way. And even if the guy prays in the first row, he does all the good things, but because of one single sin that he does, we hate him and we ignore him and we backbite him, and all of this is wrong. We have a questioner from? Okay, Sayyida from Saudi.
Yes, Assalamualaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
I have 3 questions, sir.
Okay.
First question is regarding my children. When they watch cartoons, they have the music in it. The cartoons usually have the background music. So what I should do in this relation? I should show them the cartoons, or I should switch off the TV? And my second question is, actually I teach my neighbors Quran. So actually my husband is not allowing me to teach them. So what should I convey the message to my husband regarding this? Because he doesn't like anybody to come into my house, or I should go anywhere to learn Quran or Hadith or like that. So what is opinion in this regard? Yes.
And third question?
And the third question is, when I stand for the prayer, sometimes when I start my prayer, my children, they make anything like my elder daughters, they hit the younger one. So I should cut off my prayer, or I should continue my prayer, or what I should do in my prayer, because I'm worried about my daughter, my younger one.
Okay, I will answer your question, inshallah. Brother Muhammad from Saudi.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salam wa rahmatullah.
How are you, sir?
I'm fine, Jazakallah khair for asking.
Sir, my question is, actually I'm working in Saudi Arabia since 5 years.
Okay.
And my sponsor, what he did, he put on my Iqama is skip. So
Okay.
it means it's called in Arabic hurub.
I know.
So my Iqama is still valid for another 7 months, and I'm working here.
Okay.
So my question, after the expiry Iqama, if I stay here, if I work, will my earning will be halal or haram? Is the fees for Saudi government I give any Saudi poor people or any Saudi fund, Will my earning will be halal or haram?
Okay, I will answer your question.
Thank you, sir.
Hayyak Allah. Okay, Sayyida had 3 questions. First of all, she's asking about her children watching cartoons. And as you know, unfortunately, everything nowadays has music or music instruments in it, inshallah, with the exception of Huda TV. And this is why we have to support Huda, because they're trying their level best to be on the sunnah and to avoid sin and to provide the Islamic alternative for other channels. It's a difficult job to do, but with the grace of Allah, it will happen as long as the people have the intention to support for the cause of Allah Azza wa Jal. So she's saying what to do when we have these cartoons and music. First of all, you have to be very selective in what your children watch. So if you allow them to watch MBC3, which is a deviant channel, and it is based on a lot of westernizing ideas, and it's haram totally to allow your children to do this, then you're making a mistake. Maybe Space Tune, maybe, but still it has a lot of cultural and it has a lot of ideology that is different than the Muslims in a lot of terms. So you have to filter what they watch, and I would recommend that you watch it with them so that you can have a sense and an idea of what they're watching. But hypothetically speaking, if they're watching something that does not contain anything haram in the content, no God with one eye pouring water from the clouds, this would make the children who are 4 or 5 years old think, this is rain, it's from God, because yesterday it rained, and I asked my father, and he said, this rain is from Allah. And now the cartoon we see this huge monster or giant with wearing shorts. I don't know why monsters and giants wear shorts. But, subhanallah, this is life. And he's in a cloud, and he's pouring rain in buckets. The 4-year-old child would definitely relate yesterday's answer of his father to what he's seeing in the cartoon. And this is something, it's a breach of aqeedah. This is the most important thing in your child's life, to upbring him on tawheed, on knowing Allah Azza wa Jal, and now you're destroying it so that you would have half an hour or an hour or 4 hours of peace without them nagging and making problems. This is a problem. Hypothetically speaking, everything is fine, but there's music. Alhamdulillah, remote controls have a mute button. So either you keep it with you or keep it with them so that they would learn whenever music comes, they put it on mute, and then they grow up with this, inshallah, in them. She says that her husband refuses her to teach others Quran in her house. It is his right to prevent you from entering your house, whomever he does not want. This is his God-given right. So you have to obey him. Now, having said that, this doesn't mean that you try to cuddle yourself with him and try to be nice and cook him the best of food and wear the best of clothes and, become charming to him. And when he's in the mood, tell him that I want to get closer to Allah Azza wa Jal, and having people coming into my house and teaching them the Quran, I will have the reward. Not only that, whatever I teach, you also as a husband who permitted me to do this will have the reward. Maybe inshallah this would change his mind, but at the end of the day it is his decision. She says that she starts in her prayer and then the children start to fight, and she's afraid for her young girl. If you are sure that they are going to hurt her badly or to beat her up or to endanger her in any way, you must interrupt your prayer. But if this is shaitan, you know that they play 24/7 and nothing serious happened. They shout, they scream, they run after one another, and your salah is not going to take more than 6 or 7 minutes max. So in this case, no, continue your prayer, and you have to evaluate the situation. Brother Muhammad from Saudi Arabia, he says that he's been in Saudi Arabia, and unfortunately we have this system of sponsorship, and those who are expats have to have a sponsor. Now he says that his sponsor, for one reason or the other, said that, reported him as a fugitive, that he is not reporting to him anymore, and the man has ran away. And the system here is that you have to be extradited on the spot. Now, whether this is just or not, this is not just in a general way. There has to be special bureaus, offices to look into such cases, because so many times a lot of injustice, a lot of dhulm and transgression takes place, unfortunately. And a lot of the expats are treated as property of their sponsors, those who do not fear Allah Azza wa Jal. And breaking the system is easy. It is for the people to implement the system and to work hard on giving people what is lawfully theirs. So this is injustice, this is not fair. Now he's saying that in 7 months' time, nobody caught me yet. So in 7 months' time, my iqama, my residency ID would expire and I have to leave. So if I stay and work, would I be earning haram money? The answer is no. Whatever you work is halal. So if you are a janitor and you're cleaning the floor, but you are not legally permitted to stay in the country, your earning is halal. It has not. You're not selling booze, and you're not dealing in prostitution. You're not doing drugs. You're doing halal work. However, you're sinful in the term that you have disobeyed the ruler, the Muslim ruler, who had set rules and regulations that are, in his opinion, needed and suitable to govern the country. So we as Muslims are obliged to obey him. If we disobey him, then we have disobeyed Allah Azza wa Jal, because he's not telling us to do something haram, and he's not forbidding us from doing something that is mandatory. It's like a red traffic light. You have to stop. Said, no, where is it in the Quran and Sunnah? Give me the evidence. Subhanallah, akhi. Everything you want Quran and Sunnah. Allah Azza wa Jal said that you have to obey Allah, obey the Prophet ﷺ, and those whom Allah appointed as rulers over you. So you have to obey them. But your earning is halal, inshallah. And I would advise you to leave and protect your dignity and your honor. You don't want any Tom, Dick, or Harry that is not even educated to come and arrest you and humiliate you in any way or fashion. Alhamdulillah, you finish your time here. Go and seek Allah's provisions. It is not only limited to this country or to the Gulf countries. Allah's provisions are everywhere if you look for them. Al-Niyas says that a Muslim colleague of his came to him and asked him if he can use his name as a reference to a bank because he wants to take a loan. And he gave him the approval, but then the bank called the other day and they asked him about his friend. What's his name, where he lives, his income, his financial status, etc. And his recommendations as well. So he's saying that if I answer them and give them something that is good, will I be held accountable? The answer is yes. You are collaborating with your friend in taking an interest-based loan, which is riba. And without your recommendation, he would not be able to get that loan. So by saying, yes, he's my friend and he lives here and there and he has a house, and you are giving recommendation to a bank to approve a loan. And by this, you would become sinful as well, unfortunately. Aisha, which is the last question in our emails, unless we get other questions from the callers. If not, we'll call it a day. Is there any sahih hadith mentioning that one who memorizes the Quran and forgets it will be resurrected on the day of judgment as a blind man? No, there isn't. An authentic hadith, there isn't. There are a number of hadiths, but they're all weak. And this is an issue of dispute among scholars. Shaykh al-Islam bin Taymiyyah used to consider it as a sin. Some of the scholars even considered it as a major sin, to memorize an ayah, to memorize a surah or a portion of the Quran and then forget it. They used to consider it as a major sin. But the most authentic opinion, once you look into the evidences and to the other scholars who said something else, you'd find that there isn't any authentic hadith stating that such a person would be resurrected blind. Those who would be resurrected blind on the day of judgment are those who neglected and ignored the signs of Allah and the verses of the Quran. They will complain on the Day of Judgment, why are we resurrected blind while we were in this life able to see? And Allah Azza wa Jal would reprimand them by saying to them that this is exactly what you did, that my signs came to you, my verses of the Quran came to you, and you have given it your back, and you forgot it, and this is why you are forgotten today, that Allah Azza wa Jal would not have mercy on them. So if someone neglects and ignores the verses of Allah in the sense that he does not apply them, he will be resurrected blind. Not simply forgetting an ayah and saying that, oh, akhi, I used to memorize this surah, but then I was made to forget it. No, this is, it can't, forgetfulness could be something that is natural. And also, it can be deliberate because you're not revising it. In both cases, inshallah, a person is not sinful. Yet, if a verse of the Quran states, even if he does not memorize it, states that riba is a major sin, and Allah Azza wa Jal would wage war, and His Prophet would wage war, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, against those who deal in riba. And this we give as a present to the brothers and sisters who work in financial institutions, in banks, and they deal in riba as if it is something normal. You take a loan, you pay interest. You deposit your money, you take interest. To those, Allah Azza wa Jal is waging war. So if the brothers and sisters that deal in riba neglect this ayah, neglect the hadiths of the Prophet ﷺ, they will be partly resurrected as blind because of their ignorance and their neglect of the verses of the Quran. We have a short break. Stay tuned, and inshallah we'll be right back.
In a game of golf, both the caddy and the golfer have the same goal, to get the ball into the hole. Interest-free banking is similar. With a clear view of the fairway, a predefined agreement without shifting targets, things should end up where you want them. Your deposits are safe, and your funds are ethically managed with a transparent and equitable approach to sharing risk and reward. No interest burden means more time to relax without the worry of nasty surprises. Rest assured, our interest is mutual. Jazz Bank, Nigeria's first full-fledged non-interest bank.
Are you looking for a way to recharge your hearts or to get you back on track in your obedience to Allah? Or maybe you're looking for a program to remind you of your duties to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Here on Living Hearts, we'll be working together as a nation, helping each other to remain firm in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Every Saturday, live on Huda TV, you will have a chance to learn your deen and at the same time listen to real life stories that will make your heart shake. Every believer needs a place to turn, and inshallah we can all turn to Living Hearts.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. I believe that Brother Umar from Pakistan is on the line.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Salam rahmatullah.
How are you, Sheikh?
I'm fine, Jazakallah khair, Umar.
Sheikh, I want to ask a question.
Yes.
There is a hadith that there is a night in Shaban in which Allah forgives all the Muslims unless he is a kafir or a mushrik. It is a hadith sahih or dhaif?
Okay. Any more questions?
No, Jazakallah khair.
You have a saying, I think, Shabarat, something like this, you call it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I will answer your question, inshallah, Umar.
Salam.
Alaikum salam. Brother Umar's question was that there is a hadith, he says, and he would like to know the authenticity of this hadith. And this hadith is that Allah says, the Prophet says that Allah Azza wa Jal looks in the middle of Sha'ban, in the night of the middle of Sha'ban, to all the people of earth, and He would forgive all those on earth except those who are disbelievers and those who have enmity with one another. So if a Muslim has enmity with another Muslim and they boycotted each other, they're not talking to each other, then Allah Azza wa Jal will not forgive them. And he asks, is this hadith sahih or not? The majority of scholars say that this hadith is not authentic. Shaykh al-Albani, may Allah have mercy on his soul, said that this hadith is hasan, which means that it is acceptable, not highly authentic, but it is not weak. We can apply it. However, this hadith shows us that, or shows us the importance of being on Tawheed, on being on Islam, and it also shows us the importance of not having any enmity with one another. It does not indicate by any means that you have to fast the day of the middle of Sha'ban, unless you usually fast every month, the white days, 13th, 14th, and the 15th. And it does not indicate by any means that you should pray night prayer, or sacrifice to Allah Azza wa Jal, or give charity, or do whatever that was not done at the time of the Prophet ﷺ on that particular night. So having a great night or a great day in Islam does not mean that we may do good deeds in it, because to do something that is good on that particular day, we either have to have an open permission from the Prophet ﷺ, or we have to have a specific hadith stating that the Prophet did that, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. For example, we all know that Friday is the best day of the week. It's the best day that Allah Azza wa Jalla has created. In it, Adam was created. In it, the angels were instructed to prostrate to Adam. In it, Adam descended to earth. In it, Allah Azza wa Jalla forgave Adam. The day of judgment takes place on that day, on the day of Friday. However, the Prophet ﷺ forbade us from fasting Friday alone. And he also forbade us from reviving the night and praying night prayer. Muhammad? Okay. Okay, Maha from the Emirates.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Sir, I've got two questions.
Yes.
My first question is that I heard a hadith that says that there will be a person who will not be a martyr or a hafiz, but he'll be very close to Allah. I want to know about that hadith. And second, the question is that any ways to improve the iman of a person, because what happens is that my sister, she sleeps at night and then unable to get up for Fajr, and then she repents. She says she prays Zohar, but she misses that, and then the cycle just continues on. And
Okay.
she's very depressed and mentally, very disturbed.
Okay.
She doesn't know what to do.
I will try my level best to answer your question. Umreen from Saudi Arabia.
Hello?
Umreen?
Yes?
Okay. Your question is?
Assalamu Sheikh.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Sheikh, my question is, do we have to follow any one of the mazhab,
Okay.
like Hanafi or Shafi? And my next question is, that my brother-in-law said that when we come to perform Umrah from India, that first we should perform Tahiyatul Masjid Salah, then perform Farz Salah, and then start our Umrah.
Okay.
And my second question is, if we forget in Witr Salah, the dua,
Allahumma hdina fi man hudayt.
can continue the Salah for 4 rakat?
I did not understand the question. Do you want to pray night prayer 4 rak'ahs in a row?
No, I make the intention for 3 rakah.
Okay.
But on the 3rd rakah, if I forget the dua kunut,
Okay.
and shall I continue and make it 5 rakah?
Okay. I will answer your question, inshallah.
Okay, Thank you, sir.
وجزاك. Okay, Umar from Pakistan asked us about the middle of Sha'ban, and we have answered this, inshallah, I hope. Maha from the Emirates had 2 or 3 questions. She says that she heard the hadith that there will be someone who's close to Allah Azza wa Jal, but he's neither Hafiz al-Quran nor a martyr. And she's asking about this hadith. I have no idea. Now, there are a lot who are close to Allah Azza wa Jal. And among them are those who have excellent moral conduct and behavior. They have a high level of akhlaq. The way they treat people, their generosity, their honesty, their bashfulness, the purity of their words that come out of their mouths. All of these are close to Allah Azza wa Jal, and that is why the Prophet ﷺ said, I am a guarantor. He guarantees, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, a house in the highest level of Jannah to those who have high moral conduct and beautiful akhlaq. So also, the Prophet tells us, alayhi salam, that those who sponsor and take care of orphans are this close to the Prophet alayhi salam. Me and a person who does this are this close in Jannah. And there are lots of good deeds that would get you closer to Allah Azza wa Jal. Personally, I don't know about this hadith, so if you can email it to me, maybe that would help me look for it. Maha's second question was, okay, Sabah from the Emirates. Sabah from the Emirates.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Listen to me from the phone and mute your TV, please.
Yeah, it's muted.
Yes.
Sir, I want to ask you one question.
Okay.
That is, my daughter is 17 years old, and of late she's been having irregular menstrual cycle. So she is getting her menses every 13 days, like just a gap of 8 days she prays and then again it's getting. I mean, maybe it's a disease or an illness. So I want to know that what is the ruling, like when can she start praying? Or when should she stop praying, that is? Or should she continuously not pray for those 13 days and then pray only those 8 days and then again her menses start like that? So wanted to know that.
Okay, I will answer your question, inshallah.
And the second question, one more question if you don't mind.
Yes.
Is my husband is a teacher. He is working in a school. He gets up for Fajr in the morning at 5. And when he comes back from school, it is by the time he has had lunch and it's almost after time, he falls asleep invariably within 10 minutes of the Asr Azan. So, he is very upset that he is not able to attend Asr Azan at time. So, I have told him that when sleep overcomes you, I think it is permissible that you may pray it at home rather than going to the mosque. What is the ruling on this also, if you can clarify, please? Thank you so much.
I will answer. You're welcome, inshallah. Abdullah from Bahrain.
Hello?
Yes, Abdullah.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum salam to Allah. I'm fine, Jazakallah khair.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. Sheikh, regarding menses, I want to ask 2-3 questions, Sheikh. We are taking classes in Bukhari. Dealing with menses, Sheikh, can a woman after, when she is in haram, after she performs her tawaf, she experiences her menses, can she go and stay in the haram, not going into the tawaf area, but outside NSI area, to do some zikr or something, because they are going to perform, they are going to Makkah.
Second
they
question.
don't want to miss the chance. Yeah.
Second question.
Yeah, normally women can allowed to go in any masjid when she is in menses, Sheikh. And my third question is, during the Hajj season, after she finished her ritual, but she didn't do Tawaf al-Ifada, but during Tawaf al-Ifada, she experienced her menses, Sheikh, and the same day she has her flight, she has to come back. But can she go to perform the Ifada while she in the menses? She can go into to perform the Tawaf al-Ifada, Sheikh?
Understood.
I want to know, because we are following Imam Bukhari, any Sahih hadith, so that I want to discuss with my colleagues.
I will answer, inshallah.
Thank you.
You're welcome, inshallah. Wa alaikum salam wa barakatuh. Okay, Maha's question was that her sister fails to wake up for Fajr prayer, and she's depressed, and she's very sad because of this. She tries so many times, and she's unable to wake up for Fajr prayer. Now, if your sister is taking all the necessary precautions and means so that she wakes up for Fajr and she doesn't, Allah Azza wa Jal would not punish her, and she's not sinful. There are people who, when they sleep, are heavy sleepers. Even if you put a cannon next to their heads, and it goes off, nothing happens. They just keep on sleeping. It's like when polar bears go to hibernate. There are people like this. May Allah Azza wa Jal protect us all. So Allah Azza wa Jal doesn't burden a soul beyond what it can bear. So alhamdulillah, she's not sinful. However, if she goes to bed at 12 or 1 o'clock a.m. and she doesn't set the alarm, or she knows that whenever she's late going to bed, she will not wake up for Fajr, then she's sinful. The Prophet says that there is no sin while waking up. Let me rephrase that. The Prophet says لَيْسَ التَّفْرِيطُ فِي النَّوْمِ إِنَّمَا التَّفْرِيطُ فِي الْيَقَظَةِ. That there is no sin while you sleep, but the sin is when you're awake. So if someone falls asleep and he doesn't wake for prayer, he's not sinful. Allah Azza wa Jal is not holding him accountable. He's accountable if he goes to bed late and he knows that he's not going to wake up on time. Therefore, I would recommend that she goes to bed 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock p.m. max, and she drinks a lot of water before going to bed. Definitely she's going to wake up by 4:30, needing to go to the bathroom, and then she can pray Fajr on time. And how to increase the Iman? There are so many ways, but among them is reciting the Quran a lot, and reciting reading the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, and seeing and watching how he lived his life with his companions on following the Quran and the Sunnah, and also associating yourself with practicing Muslims who would get you closer to Allah Azza wa Jalla. Allah knows best. Reem, if I know that I'm not saying the name correctly, she's saying, what's the ruling on following a particular madhab? And we've answered this question before. If you are someone who's a layman, in mechanics, I'm a layman. If something happens to my car's engine, I would not have an iota of what's going on. So as a layman in mechanics, I have to go to someone, and he would tell me, you have to change the spark plugs, you have to do this, you have to do that, and I would take his word for it. And whatever happens, it's his responsibility. So if you're a layman in Islamic teachings, in sciences, you don't have the ability to understand Quran in Arabic. You rely on people translating the meaning, and their translation might be right and might be wrong. You don't have the basics of fundamentals of fiqh, or the fiqh in general, or the interpretation and the commentary on the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. If this is the case, in your case, you should follow someone who you trust. Whether it is a scholar, a contemporary scholar that you can go and ask and read his fatwas and communicate with, and you trust his knowledge. Not only that, you trust his religious commitment. Because I know a lot of scholars on YouTube and on TV channels that might be knowledgeable, yet they're deviant. And they're consuming people's money, and they're calling the masses, and they're making fiery speeches, but they have no iman in their hearts. They're frauds. So you have to trust their knowledge, Islamic knowledge, and you have to trust their religious commitment. And you know that they are 24/7 abiding by the Quran and Sunnah. You ask those around them, you see them practicing, you don't see any open sin or lies or deceit. If you don't want to do this, then you may follow one madhab, one school of thought, and follow it because you trust the scholars who follow it, and you think that this is the thing that you can follow. Now, it is not permissible for you as a layman to sit back and say, oh, I like this from Hanafi madhab, but this is better in Shafi'i madhab, and I will take this from Hanbali madhab, and you pick and choose. This is not permissible. If you're a student of knowledge, if you have enough knowledge that qualifies you to look into the schools of thought and select what is most authentic and closest to the Quran and Sunnah, this is acceptable. But the 99.9% of the Muslims are not like this. They are laymen, they don't have enough knowledge, and they have to stick to one school of thought or to one scholar. Secondly, that is, until they find an evidence that could not be doubted. So I follow Sheikh XYZ. But if Sheikh XYZ says something, and in the Quran or in the Sunnah, it clearly goes against the Quran and Sunnah, I have to disagree with him and follow what is clearly and obvious, because Allah ordered us to follow the Quran and Sunnah when we are able to understand the Quran and Sunnah. But if we're not, then we follow the scholars who guide us. And her second question was, they are told in India that if you're coming for Umrah, you should not perform your tawaf until you pray 2 rak'ah tahiyyat al-masjid and fard prayer, whether it's Asr, Dhuhr, Maghrib, whatever it is, and then you may perform your Umrah. And this is baseless. Once you come, when you're ihram, to the masjid, and it's not time for prayer, and you don't want to sit down, you immediately begin with the tawaf. After you conclude your tawaf, you pray 2 rak'ahs behind Maqam Ibrahim, and these 2 rak'ahs allow you to sit, because they take also under them the tahiyyat al-masjid, the greeting of the masjid. And you continue your umrah without any problem. She says that if I'm praying 3 rak'ahs of witr, of course not like Maghrib, because it is not permissible to sit in the second rak'ah. So she's praying 3 rak'ahs in a row without sitting except on the 3rd rak'ah. But she forgot to say, Allahumma hadina fi man hadayt, dua al-qunut. So can she pray another rak'ah or a 5th rak'ah so that she would make her witr 5? The answer is no. As long as you intended to pray only 3, then you should pray only 3 and conclude your prayer. Dua al-qunut is not mandatory. It's a sunnah. If you do it all the time, it's okay. If you don't do it at all, it's okay. If you do it sometime and leave it sometime, it is okay. And Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. Sabah from the Emirates, she says that her child is 17 years old and her menses is not punctual. She gets 13 days of menses, and then she is clean for 8 days. And then she gets the 13 days again. This is punctual, it seems to me. And therefore, Allah Azza wa Jal told us that, and the Prophet told us that when the menses is there, a woman should stop praying and fasting. Once the menses is gone, she can resume that. And it seems to me that she gets her menses for 13 days, and then she's pure for 8 days. This is on time, and she has to stop praying the 13 days. However, she's instructed to analyze, because we know that when the flow of blood comes, then this is her menses. The spotting before that is not counted. So if a spot or two are noticed, then they have no value. She should continue to pray. The minute the blood flows and gushes, in this case, yes, she has to consider this to be her menses, and she has to stop. Once she sees her purity, and the purity is recognized by one of two, either by seeing the white thread-like discharge that women see, that is completely white, no brownish, no yellowish discharges with it, or by the complete dryness. So she is dry for a whole day, 24 hours for example. No discharges at all, nothing, no colors. Once she sees this, that is the sign of purity, she has to take her ghusl and pray. Afterwards, if she sees any type of discharge, brownish or yellowish discharge, she should ignore that. Because Atiyah, may Allah have mercy, may Allah be pleased with her, the companion of the Prophet ﷺ said, we used to disregard any brownish or yellowish discharges after seeing the purity. So once you see your purity, khalas, disregard it. And for the 8 days, alhamdulillah. Okay, we have Nazir from the Emirates.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Salam rahmatullah, Nazir.
Okay, Sheikh, I have a question regarding for zakat.
Okay.
I have paid the zakat funds, and with that, after that, with that money, I have bought a house, which I'll be using it when I go back to my country.
Okay.
Now the question is, am I liable for zakat continuously till I go back and reside myself? And also, I'm just renting it for the time being, since I'm not too sure when I'll be going whether in a year's time or 2 years' time.
Okay.
So how do I purify my money on that one? In addition to this particular house that I bought, I already have another house which is also on rent.
Okay.
So for which of course, for the money that I had already paid the zakat.
Okay.
But should I continuously pay zakat on this one or not? And the second request is that the numbers are not showing on the screen continuously, Sheikh.
The numbers are continuously shown on the screen, or you want them to be shown on the screen? Okay, I think Nazir is gone. Sabah, question number 1 and number 2. Okay, number 2, her husband is a teacher. He goes out of work at 5, comes back 10 minutes before Asr, and he's exhausted. He goes to sleep. He's depressed. He's sad because he's not praying Asr on time. What to do? She says, I advise him to pray at home. And this is, with all due respect, an ill advice. As a man, he has to pray in the masjid. Sheikh, he's tired. He's been working for 8 hours or 10 hours. So, Allah Azza wa Jal did not burden him beyond what he bears. Everybody works 10, 12, 14 hours. Everybody gets sleepy and tired. If we follow our desires, then we will never prosper in this life nor in the hereafter. And the Prophet said, whoever oversleeps, whoever misses Asr prayer, as if he has been cut off his family and his wealth, as if he's been deprived of that. In another hadith, whoever misses Asr prayer, then his deeds are void. And this is a scary hadith. Some scholars say that all of his deeds are void, not only Asr prayer. And this is not the time to comment on it, but both hadiths are authentic. So Asr prayer has great weight in Islam. If it's 10 minutes, if it's 15 minutes, instead of going home, let him go straight to the masjid, recite Quran, offer sunnah prayers, voluntary prayers until the salat is done, and then inshallah he will be rewarded. Raja from Saudi Arabia.
Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Yes, I have a few questions here for you.
Okay.
As far as I know, the soul is immediately separated from the body at the time of the death, and at the same time punishment begins in the grave. Now, you said the torture, who's being tortured actually? Is it our body, the soul beside it, or what? That's quite a doubtful thing for me.
I did not understand your question. You're asking about the torture. Would it be
when the body is in the grave?
I know.
Where is our soul?
Okay, where the souls would be?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Next question is, what is the best ethics if someone starts using a person as an example while teaching or doing da'wah?
What is the best?
What is the best ethics? Should I call her attention? Should I just ignore her or listen to her when she starts using a person as an example while she's doing her da'wah?
She's a Muslim and she's giving you da'wah, or you giving her da'wah?
She's actually, no. She's giving me da'wah, sir.
Okay.
Next one, as they say, marriage.
Is what?
Marriage completes a woman's need. If a woman never had the chance to find or get married, is she sinful, or will her deeds be unacceptable?
Okay. The second question, Raja, I did not understand. Who's giving whose da'wah?
A teacher, Sarah, a da'iyah,
okay,
is using, at times that when they're using people as an example, is this okay? Because we know that talking about people is haram.
Okay. I will answer the question.
And the last one, sir, is very important. If before converting to Islam, if someone is having a tattoo,
okay,
is she obliged to have it removed, or is it included in the sins which were supposedly washed away during her conversion?
I will answer the question.
Okay,
Abdullah from Bahrain, she says that she has 3 questions. If a woman, after performing tawaf, gets her menses, is she allowed to stay in the masjid? And the answer is no. If she's making umrah and she gets her menses after completing the tawaf, she may go and make her sa'i, continue her sa'i, because the mas'a, or the place where you make the sa'i, the majority of scholars say that it is outside the borders of the masjid, and that is why you have a very big fence, a very big wall separating the mas'a from the haram. She cannot stay in the haram area, in the masjid area. She must go out to the open plazas outside the walls of the masjid. Her second question was, what's the ruling on entering masjid for a woman and her menses? And the answer is, this is not permissible. For a number of hadiths proving and stating that this is not permissible. The Prophet ﷺ, in his i'tikaf, in his seclusion, he used to give his head out of the masjid for Aisha to wash it, because she had her menses and she would not enter the masjid. If it were permitted, she would have gone and washed his head instead of having him do death. And her third question is that if a woman completed her rituals and she had only the tawaf al-ifada, which is a pillar of Hajj, and she's doing it today and she's traveling in the evening, and all of a sudden she got her menses, what to do? The answer is, if she's able to travel and come back, then she should travel, if she's living in Riyadh and somewhere in Saudi Arabia, and after she's pure, she gets her ghusl and makes her ifada, tawaf. If not, if she's living overseas, or it's not possible for her to come due to visas, etc., in this case, she could go and make her tawaf while in the state of menses, because this is a necessity. Nazir, you don't have any zakat, because when you buy a house and put it on rent, even if you buy 10 houses and put them on rent, there's no zakat on the property itself. The zakat is on the rent you get if a whole year passes and it reaches the nisab. Raja, 3 questions. Where is the soul when the body is in the grave? The soul is put back into the body after it reaches, whether it's a good soul, the 7th heaven, or it reaches the borders or the gates of the 1st heaven and then goes back to the grave and thrown to the grave. So it is in the body, but it is not the way we have our souls in our bodies. Now we are alive. So though it's in the body, if we take the dead person's corpse out, he's not going to walk, though his soul is in there. And that is why the torture, the torment, and the na'im and the blessing in the favor of Allah Azza wa Jalla and enjoyment would be on the soul mainly, and partly on the body or what remains after it. If a da'iyah, she says a teacher giving da'wah, and she's making fun of people or naming people, like this singer, this actor, this Muslim deviant person, and she's calling them by name, can we say something, or we should just remain silent and listen to her? No, you have to interrupt her, and you have to politely, in a nice way, write her a note, not to make a scene out of it, but you have to make it clear to her that this is backbiting and there is no need for that, because nobody is interested in going to them. So why backbite them? There is no legitimacy for that. And she says that the third question, if a woman is not married, does this affect her religion? Well, if a woman is not married due to lack of proposals, then alhamdulillah, Allah does not burden a soul beyond what it can bear. But if someone is continuously neglecting proposals for no apparent reason, and she doesn't want to get married, then she is, or she might be sinful, because she's going against the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet told us ﷺ that when someone gets married, he has completed half of his religion. Therefore, he should fear Allah in the remaining half. And this shows you that marriage has a great weight in Islam. But if nobody is proposing, Allah Azza wa Jal would not punish you for that. And finally, the last question in tonight's episode, she's saying that if a revert had tattoos on his body or her body and then accepted Islam, would they be held accountable for that? And the answer is no. The Prophet said, may Allah curse those who have tattoos on them and those who make tattoos for them. It's a major sin to have tattoos. And if a person has a tattoo and then he accepts Islam, all of his sins are forgiven. All of his sins or her sins are all erased by embracing and accepting Islam. Every heinous act you've done, it's gone. It's history. It has no traces at all. And you have a white book of records. However, if it is something that is apparent and you can conceal it, it is highly recommended that you do, so that people would not think bad of you, and at the same time, this would not remind them of this major sin. But if it is something that is so apparent, you cannot hide it, it's in here or somewhere in your face or your neck or whatever, then Allah Azza wa Jal is most forgiving, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. This is all the time we have for tonight's episode. Until we meet you next time, same time, fi amanillah, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Allah is my heart's speech, your mercy is what I beseech. Keep in my heart your remembrance, and in your deen allow me to advance. Help me in my quest, permit me to pass the ultimate test. Help me in my quest.